This is Tell Me Exactly, an emergency communications podcast. And my name is Bobby Benton, and I'll be your host. Today we're talking about OMEGA Determinants for police. My guest today is Mark Von Behren. He is a police protocol expert with the Priority Dispatch. Glad to have you, Mark.
Good morning, Bobby.
Now, tell me exactly what our audience needs to know about OMEGA Determinants in police.
Quite a bit offered to agencies through the OMEGA coding, Bobby. It's a designator for incidents with low acuity and non-emergent status for agencies, but the agencies are the one who will dictate or mandate whether or not they're going to use this and what they will use it for. The option is there to actually never send a police response unit out to a scene for these low acuity scenarios or situations in a protocol. It can even come from an outside agency that they may need a non-response from an agency. The agencies are the one who dictates what they will or will not respond to, obviously. And through their administrative process, it can include, but not limited to, online reporting or telephone reporting units. Pre-planned for the agency to handle these things in the card set or in Pro QA with police. There is a symbol designator for an OMEGA coding, and there are several options available to the agencies to decide what they want to do with the OMEGA, such as some agencies will need to ensure that to do OMEGA coding that they have the availability for their clients or their community to access a active working email address. So if they're going to do some online reporting, then they got to ensure that the client has an active email, an address. If they don't, this may not meet the OMEGA eligibility for that agency.
So when you say a no police response, we're not actually being a no send no help agency to them. We're just not physically sending an officer out to the locations. Is that correct?
That's exactly correct. Yeah.
So when you say telephone reporting, I guess these OMEGAs came. How did these OMEGAs come about? I mean, what was the driving purpose for us to start setting up like telephone reporting or online reportings and things of that nature?
Excellent question. Excellent background that's needed, Bobby, is what we have seen in the history, 10, 20 years has been not only just have we endured COVID, which really shut down a lot of emergency responses or non-emergency responses, I should say, for agencies so that they are not putting their employees in harm's way or a community member in harm's way. So it opened the opportunity for an officer to actually make a phone call to the citizen and address, again, low acuity, non-urgent response.
And like you said, if I'm not mistaken, the agency determines what makes that, whether or not they're going to do it with the OMEGAs. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's exactly correct. This is all predetermined by whatever administration or emergency services is dealing with the police, Pro QA or EPD. There are some other things, Bobby, also that go along with options for the OMEGA online reporting, not just the active working email. Most agencies have found or using, that I have seen across the nation, to putting an age restriction on being able to make a police report over a telephone. And it's generally on the lines of what that state or that jurisdiction is considered to be an adult. So as an example, it would be 18 years or older, most average for the age for an adult. And again, this is all determined by the agency. They're just checking the blocks in their administrative purposes of whether that person meets those requirements.
So they don't have to be 18 years older or older if the agency says it's okay, I'll take a report from a 16-year-old.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right. Again, all this is driven by the local agency or emergency services, whoever's setting this option up for their call takers.
In your opinion, how do you feel that these OMEGAs, how do they benefit the community?
Well, again, it's freeing up the police emergency responses to handle higher acuity
life-threatening situations.
There you go. Yes, exactly. Life-threatening situations. Allow them to do that instead of running out and tying up an officer to go take, as an example, a stolen bicycle.
I know with our agency, the one that I retired from, we have a telephone response unit, and it's not necessarily sworn officers that fulfill those positions, and it could be a civilians that's taking reports too. Have you seen that in your ventures?
Yes, sir. Across the nation, again, other than COVID and driving some of this, it's also the shortages in personnel, not just personnel in the communication centers, but personnel out on the street. There's just shortages nationwide, again, to free up officers to handle more higher acuity items.
So with, like you said, the shortage, I mean, how many times have you waited like 40 minutes for an officer to come to a scene, which somebody in the office could have handled it right away?
Absolutely. Not only just over the phone. Again, it could be through an active working email. There are a couple other things that need to be pointed out here too, Bobby, is that some of the other options available to these agencies, should they choose Omega Response, would be that there is no suspect involved at all, not a vehicle or a person. Because obviously, again, I'm going back to this low acuity, but we want to ensure that our citizens in our communities throughout the nation are safe and not in harm's way or not in danger at all. Again, not any event that's in progress in which a citizen may be harmed in any way.
What about like if the caller calls in and says that I found something or their house broken into and they were in the backyard and they found a wallet that they've never seen before. Would this count? Would this constitute for Omega?
Well, that's a great thought, but actually no, because what you just gave me there was a citizen calling and reporting finding a wallet. So that means there's evidence to be collected. So an officer has to go out there and collect that evidence. So that's another thing in there. The wallet, as you mentioned, but it could be anything else. You know, if they had a video of that break-in that you mentioned, again, that would be evidence, something that we want to go out and collect.
I guess the chain of custody would be coming a factor on that of how to be able to get entered in court if need be later on.
Absolutely. It again, that could all be evidence, whether it's the video or the wallet, blood from a break-in on a windowsill or anything like that, as well as tool marks and things like that may be left behind.
I guess when it comes to like the communication centers, I guess this is actually a benefit for them.
I would think so. Yes, I believe it's a great resource that allows, again, not the communications personnel to ask limited questions, possibly, and then also to free them up to move on to more serious events that may be occurring.
Because I know that the stress level in the 911 center, whenever you are holding a priority call, but you have nobody to send because they're taking a past or a larceny that occurred a week ago, and they're tied up on that call and they can't send them to another call, it probably helps out a lot.
Yep, and just like you said, it's going to add to their frustration level that they're dealing with this situation when there could be more important things to move on to.
Now, I understand that the version of EPD that's out right now is version 7.
That's correct.
And in the previous version, I know with our center that there was we turned them off. The Omegas that was on there, we turned them off because you had to make that decision in case entry, and there was no change in dispatch and stuff. I guess the online reporting, the telephone response or referrals that you talked about is the new changes. Is that new changes in version 7 compared to the previous that we had?
Yes, there's more options available to them in the newest version. I personally believe in teaching the prior version to this version. This new version is just absolutely awesome. It is totally client-driven for the most part. Again, these are all just options that in the implementation phase that you and I do, along with our project managers, that they have these options to decide what they will or they won't do. Also, again, this is customer-based driven, where at any point, again, the agency can decide if a citizen calls up and says, I don't want to report this online, or I don't want to talk to an officer over the telephone. I'd like an officer to come out and see me. Then those agencies are going to have to decide on what they want to do with that.
Well, in your position with priority dispatch, if the agency says, I want to talk to a protocol expert, do you go out to them or make phone calls to them or respond? And are you able and available for them to make these decisions, help them with these decisions?
Absolutely. That's exactly what we do. We work in conjunction with project managers. with these agencies to make the most informed decision that they can make with the resources available to them. And again, I think it's the latest and greatest version that we have to offer our clients, and there's just more options available than ever before.
Now, with the agencies utilizing the Omegas, do you see more agencies going towards that and going towards telephone response units or online reporting more than you have in the past?
Yes. I mean, again, it's going to depend upon the agency size and resource available to them. Again, the smaller agencies may not be able to do these things. Larger agencies are driven by this, again, reducing thousands of responses by police officers to have to respond when it can be done with a simple phone call or a simple email.
I know whenever I was an officer and I was on the street, and it always made me upset whenever I just arrive on the scene, start to get my information, and dispatch comes over and says, "Can you clear?" I guess, has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know that there's a more priority call coming, and it's unfortunate that we'd have to leave that scene, deal with the more priority event, and then come back and write that report or take evidence.
Now, and sometimes, I mean, it's a necessity to do that. One of the incidents that happened with me is I just got sent into a wreck, and I was just got the driver's information for the wreck, and as soon as I get on there, "Can you clear?" And I've already been busting call to call, back to back, and it's been one of those type of days. I'm pretty sure you can understand those type of, and our listeners probably can understand those types of days too.
Absolutely.
And so I come on, 10-4.
Gotta go.
But the call they were holding is check on a possible infant drowning. I've responded to there, and unfortunately, the outcome was not good. So that would be a good example of where if something can be handled by telephone or be handled by online reporting, that possibly there might have been a better outcome on that type of a call.
Absolutely. Priority events got to be handled first. And again, the resources are limited, and it affords the client the opportunity to handle these low acuity events. And it's a shame that, that we don't all have the total number of resources. We don't know, what's coming next.
Do you have any stories you want?
I'll just give you a little bit of funny here and leave it at that. So, Bobby, I can truly appreciate the story that you offered there, and an unfortunate loss. On a lighter side, I have been many times stopped a motor vehicle for a speeding ticket, and I'm getting ready to write that ticket, and a higher level event is occurring. Like you said, it could involve CPR or something of that nature, and it's that motorist lucky day that I'm getting pulled away from not having to write a ticket, and I got to go handle something more important.
Well, I can respect that. I mean, especially being stopped several times because I have a heavy foot. So anytime that there's something else, I'm sorry that something else happening,
right?
But I'm thankful that it was.
Yeah.
But okay. In summary on this, Mark, why it's so important for agencies to look at possible Omegas, the benefits. If you had to explain to say your grandma,
yeah,
why should we have them?
Yeah, I think they're extremely important. Again, it's just freeing up resources to handle more important, higher level events. And just in summarizing, again, Bobby, I've already said this, and I'll just give it a bullet point, is that, again, this could be offered by administrative decision to activate this and having a working email, 18 years or older, no suspect, no vehicle information, and no obvious evidence to be collected. Again, handle it over the phone, handle it through a simple active working email address, and let the officers go out there and deal with some higher level events that they are needed to save some lives.
One quick question just popped into my mind. What about if your agency says, hey, we're going to handle this online reporting, we're going to handle this telephone response unit's going to handle this. What about if you have your call on the other end and it says, no, I pay my taxes? I don't know if I should say that. What about if you have the call on the other end and says, no, I pay my taxes, I want to see an officer? Is there a capability to be able to dispatch anyway?
Again, these Omega events are all driven with administrative police executives making these decisions. And where I come from, that's exactly what it did. If a citizen says, hey, I want to see an officer for finding this bike or finding this wallet, then that's what we got to do. We're going to go.
All right. Well, Mark, thank you for coming and joining us here. I enjoyed the time with you and the information that you brought to our listeners. And thank you very much.
And I appreciate you as well, Bobby. Thank you very much for your service.
And for our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, give us a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcasts. Let us know what you did like. Subscribe and be sure to follow us on our Instagram, our Facebook at Tell Me Exactly. To get the latest on all things emergency communications, you can visit our website at tellmeexactly.prioritydispatch.net to submit questions for our experts to answer. Tell Me Exactly is a Priority Dispatch Corporation podcast. It's developed by our team of protocol experts and is regularly hosted by Meredith Jensen. I'm Bobby Benton, serving as a guest host with Cody Ekman as producer, Reading Roberts as sound engineer, and Scott Robertson and Jason Barber as executive producer.